Okay, so we did, let me see, we did a timeout outside the room for one day, and then we tried lunchtime detention, and then we tried after school detention, and then to shake it up a little, several trips to the office, and now a conference with your parents. I don't think any of this is working. Something's really wrong with you. What's your malfunction? It's not my fault. I'm doing everything
Hi, does that sound at all familiar to you? I think even teachers who take great pride in their classroom management will sometimes encounter one of these students that just puts everything into question that you do.
Why?
Why did you do this?
It's very understandable that you want to know why they did that, but I don't think they're likely to give you anything that will be useful in your work. You know, like, I don't know. There are many books on this subject if you're inclined to do that kind of research. But I think that a student is going to behave better when they feel comfortable in your room. So for our purposes here, let's just assume that they don't feel comfortable for some reason, or they don't feel comfortable enough, and they're using various ineffective strategies for making themselves more comfortable. So you're going to rescue them from that. That's where we're headed with this. Let's call it a little bit of tough love, and maybe by tough love we mean tough for you to do, but in your best interest, and it will yield very positive results if we follow this plan.
Where's your work? All you have is scribbles here. Oh my gosh.
What's wrong with you?
You are so disrespectful. Let's do a little brainstorming. What does a day in the life of a badly behaved student look like, sound like? Well, there's going to be a lot of negatives that kind of shapes their experience quite a bit. They hear a lot of don't, can't, shouldn't, stop, be quiet, I've had it, get out of here. So it might seem like everybody has the same response to a student like this, but if you listen a little more closely, you'll discover that there are teachers that they pretty much leave alone, and not out of fear. So this might be a good time to start listening to the subtext here and find out who those teachers are and what's different in their interactions with the students. Another thing that they hear all the time is criticism. So I think there's kind of it's human nature that when somebody is being disrespectful towards you, that you're not feeling very much like praising them, and that makes sense. But on the other hand, if this makes up most of their day, where is it going to happen that they are going to be encouraged and feel encouraged to try something new with their little, training wheels on? There has to be a sense of safety, and it might be hard to let go of the very things that are bringing this on. So they're hearing you're not a good worker, you're badly behaved, you don't do school well, you're not classroom ready. And all of those things simply serve to reinforce this unattractive scene that you're dealing with. So we're going to use a little behavior modification to look for the positives that we can then leap on and make a big deal out of, so that some of this negative stuff can be kind of pushed to the side and will stop being the rule of the day, let's say. So here's our task, our chapter 1. Choose positive reinforcement over punishment. That means that you're going to make an attempt whenever you're interacting with these students to refocus your attention so that you are helping them to transition to a more productive approach as a student. And that positive reinforcement doesn't mean praise. It can mean that, but it's more like, think of it as encouragement. And so punishment is overrated. As a fallback plan, it's not really a plan. It's a let's get through this quick fix. But it doesn't really, punishment doesn't really serve to change behavior very much, at least not to shape it into the kind of thing that you have in mind. So let's see. We all know the stereotyped responses. I think a lot of people, when we become teachers, we're carrying this idea in our minds of how we're going to handle misbehavior, similarly to how it was handled for the past, 100 years. And it's time to look for something fresher that works better with today's children. So let's try saying something else, something that's not exactly what they were expecting. So what does that look like? Let's see, let's have some examples here of positive reinforcement type things you can say to a badly behaved student. Thanks for doing your work today. Look, maybe you're used to them doing nothing. So when you see them doing something, they're starting to come around. So let's hop on to that and acknowledge it. Not praising, there's no exclamation mark here. Whoa! So that's another thing. Oh, and if they get severely off task later in the period after you've kind of spent one of your positive reinforcers, bring them back in a positive way, saying, remember how you were doing your work earlier and that was so wonderful. How can we get back to that? Is there a way we can do that again? I like that. How about, it seems like you're trying a new plan. That's nice to see. So framing it in this idea of transformation and changing, that also has good resonance with the students. They need a new plan, and I think they know it, but they're kind of stuck doing what they're doing. So let's see another one. I noticed that you helped your seatmate today. That was nice. So anytime you see them doing something in a good way for some of their other students in the class, that's a big improvement on just trying to get their laughs for bad behavior. So all of these things are things you want to encourage, things you're glad to see. Let the student know you're glad to see it in a respectful way. Speak privately when possible and learn to see beyond the student's fighting stance. So, and your efforts in this department go a long way towards getting that defiant demeanor to sort of work itself out and get replaced with something that's a little more interested in learning. So when would you want to start using this new strategy? Well, possibly on the first day. Even the first day, some students are identifying themselves like, I'm the bad kid. And you're like, really? Oh, my goodness. So here's where it behooves you, to be the teacher who responds differently. You gain points right away if you just react a little differently. And at the very least, it will buy you some time. So, for instance, you might, again, speaking privately, just take them aside and say, you don't know me yet, but I really am interested in treating you with respect and getting to know you and working with you. So how about you just kind of give this class a chance and we'll see where it goes. And you're not making any promises that you can't keep. There is a little bit of magic behind this process, and part of it comes from you and part of it comes from the students. The part that comes from you is that underneath it all, you are a human being and you have empathy for other human beings. And when you're able to feature that empathy and focus on the student's strengths, that's going to help a lot in encouraging that student to bring out their best. And it brings out your best. on the student side, it's something that we're all born with. We're all born with a natural curiosity and a natural desire to learn. I call it the on switch. I haven't found the student who doesn't have one. So that's our quest. Our quest is to find that on switch and celebrate the difference that it makes in that student's experience in school and in your classroom management experience. So this wraps up our first chapter, and in chapter 2, we'll be looking more closely at the other kids in the room and the role that they play in your classroom management. Let's bring those guys on board.